Welcome on into the show. My name is Deny Gallagher, and I am joined by the Snare Campaign Provocateur, live from the homestead in New Jersey. It's Benny Horowitz. What's up, dude?
Good to be back. Good to be back. Can I tell you about some hijinks that happened since I've been back in New Jersey?
Please.
So you know, the week before a tour, I'm like, yeah, it's time to ramp up. We
Right.
gotta do a lot of drums, a lot of working out, get the cardio up. Tuesday evening, I got a little burst of energy. So I'm like, I'm gonna clear some of these log piles I have around the house, get them down to the street, get a little work in, feel good. And apparently some yellow jackets had taken up residence in one of these piles. I reached for one, I felt quite a pinch on my hand, and then I was swarmed by yellow jackets. I received 6 or 7 stings. Subsequently, my body blew up. My skin was on fire. I was getting welts everywhere. I look up online, they say, well, if your welts are, leaving the area of the bite and spreading around, time to go to the hospital. And I'm like, oh, all right. So, this is like around bedtime with the kids and stuff. I can't get a ride. So I got to jump in the car, drive myself to the ER, and quickly get an IV, first of my life at 41 years old. I made it this long, and I got pumped with like an EpiPen and steroids and the whole deal, and it could have been pretty bad. Yeah, pretty fucked up, totally random. And
I'm
then
worried about you, man. The amount of times you text me that you're randomly going to the hospital, I'm like, dude, what's happening?
it's usually not for me. These days
Yeah.
it's often I'm just the driver and get to sit around. This is like the first time I've ever had to like fully like
Wow.
get helped, where like if I didn't, like I might have died or
That's
something.
crazy.
So it was pretty random. And then the last couple days I'm just randomly breaking into like hives and stuff, and just full on allergic reaction. I was It's really stunning, Denny, how many ways the earth is creating tactics to purge us from this place. It's just lying in wait around every corner, is something ready to shake us off. She needs us out of here. This is very dangerous.
What an amazing segue for talking about the Queen later. Oh man. But
I don't
yeah,
know,
man.
Denny, is that this ever happened to you, anything like this?
Do I get stung by a bee? No, but I gotta tell you, I don't know if bee stings can go around. I got a text from a friend of mine. His son plays high school soccer, and it's his first game with the varsity team, and he had
uh,
to leave the game because of a bee sting injury.
a bee sting injury?
Yeah, on his hamstring. Crazy, right? Freak
Yeah, I
injury.
mean, dude, if you have these problems, it turns out that
You're lucky.
yeah, I mean, well, the thing with stuff like this is you don't know till you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think, with like a kid or something, now I'm like wondering, I'm like, shit, I've gotten bee stings before. I've gotten wasps before, nothing too bad. But then, like, randomly just another type gets you, and you're apparently super. But that's what I don't know. I don't know if I'm allergic to yellow jackets now, or just allergic to being stung 7 times by something.
Yeah.
Which
That's
could very
crazy.
well be the case.
By the way, I don't know. I think I'm allergic to Canada, which I am right now, doing the show live and direct from Toronto, because I texted you this yesterday. I come here, first time, second time in Canada ever, but first time to Toronto, where everything goes down and the Queen dies. So I'm not sure if like I should like avoid areas that have aging monarchy, but so yeah.
I think that's a general rule of thumb,
Yeah.
just for anyone.
Yeah.
Avoid territories with aging monarchy.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But up here, seeing some good movies at the Toronto Film Festival, man, this is crazy because it's like, I don't know if you've ever been to a film festival, Benny, but it's like your music festivals, but there's a whole conference, industry things. People are getting their movies bought and stuff like that. I was texting you about trying to go see the Weird Al movie last night. That did not happen.
Oh, didn't make it,
I
huh?
I I I think I've officially hit the point where if it's at midnight, like if it starts at midnight, it may be a no go for me.
Oh, I get that. Jesus, I'd never make it through that. Have you seen any big wigs around? Anyone cool?
Frances McDormand, her movie,
Oh,
she has, dude, this movie,
very
Talking
impressive.
Women,
Very
it
impressive person.
great movie. I had to leave, man. It's
Why?
very bloody. It's very bloody,
Oh,
and I wasn't ready for it. And I'm like having like, I had my White Claw before I went into the theater. I was like, oh, this is gonna be
Daddy.
serious, but it's not gonna be bloody. Phenomenal movie. Shout out to everybody involved. Great movie. Women talking. But man, that was not for me. I felt
Next
bad leaving.
Yeah, you should. Next time you go into a Francis McDormand, I recommend a whiskey or a
Yeah, right.
scotch. Haven't you
Yeah,
seen these movies in the last
I
5
have.
years, 10 years? She's dark these days. You
She
gotta. I saw that. What was that one where?
the three billboards and
Yeah, the Three
yeah,
Billboard. What a fucked up, awesome movie that was.
yeah.
But you got to be ready for it
I
with
was
with
not.
McDormand these days.
Great
She's
cast.
taking you on a ride.
Yeah, Rooney Mara's in it too. Those two
Nice.
just make quality movies. Um, let's see, what else am I trying to see while I'm on? Oh, the return of Brendan Fraser this summer. We have not talked about
Oh
it at all on
yeah.
the pod. I think I'm going to see The Whale on Saturday. He ballooned up to 300 pounds and then needed the prosthetic to get him up to 600. Could be a
Yeah.
real Oscar contender right there.
Who's that? Aronofsky, right?
Yeah.
I hear people are upset about it though, so I think it's going to be taken out of Oscar contention because of that. But I like to see Brendan Fraser back. That's a
Yeah.
really interesting story, and like that could have some weird tales to it in the future when he actually speaks up more about like what happened to him and stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. A lot of people talk about this industry blackballing, and it's like if you can blackball someone who as big of a star as Brendan Fraser was, like, then the puppet master conspiracy theories get a little stronger, I'm afraid.
See, that's why you do what we're doing here and just have the podcast where you talk to anybody. The only thing that can blackball me right now is a bad internet connection, which may or may not have just happened.
Danny, you know what was my film festival this year?
What was your film?
Was Flying Home from Ireland, where I finally
yeah.
got to sit down and watch 2 movies. I saw Everything All at Once All the Time.
Crazy movie, right?
Which was awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, 6 or 7 minutes into the movie, and I'm like, why am I watching this movie? Like, I don't know what's happening and why I'm watching it. And then all of a sudden that turn kicks in, and I was just gripped until the very end. What a stunning movie. And then I also watched a great documentary on I'm forgetting the name, Carol something, who played Big Bird on Sesame Street for like 40 years.
Yeah.
He was like the original Big Bird, created the voice and the character, also Oscar the Grouch.
Wow.
But also had like a very kind of interesting side life and relationship with Henson and the whole. That was a really interesting doc and actually very inspiring, like artistically. He led a very cool and artistic and loving kind of life, good doc. I recommend that as well. That was my film festival.
Oh, I love that.
That's my wife and I try to watch a movie and someone's usually sleeping within like 20 minutes. So taking a long flight is usually when I sneak them in.
Friend of show, Mo DeKeel, former video coordinator for the Clippers, been on with us before, was flying to New York, and he tweeted out this week, watching Roadhouse 30,000 feet in the sky. This is truly living. So shout out to him.
Big stuff. I can't wait. I'm getting hyped for the new Roadhouse now. I need a movie like that. I just need some good fluff in my life,
Oh, well, what segment is always good fluff, Benny?
Tell me.
Oh, I will tell you as soon as I get this board open. Just kidding. There's no time for that. It's this day music history.
Boom.
Oh, when we started doing the streams, I was so good. I'd hit the sounder. It was there, but now it's a whole process. So anyway, Benny, what do you got?
You got the traveling gig now. I thought this was interesting. In 2009, the iTunes Music Store reached 8.6 billion songs sold.
Wow.
And I'm wondering if we can safely consider that like the exact turn of the era? You know, was it the late aughts that you can now consider like the official like death of the CD? Is this an appropriate time now to consider it, I think?
See, here's the thing why I'm not about to make that giant declaration yet is
Mhm.
because hipster generations come along, and who knows, in like 5 years, like people may want to be like, oh, CDs, I have a CD player. I could see that coming.
Well, that's a good thing that I hoarded all of mine and I didn't throw any. I know a lot of people who are like, "Yeah, I got rid of like 2,000 CDs." I even interviewed my good friends Josh Grabell and Carl Severson, who ran Trustkill and Ferret Records years ago, and they told me about how they had to hire a company to basically get rid of like thousands and thousands of unsold CDs because they were just like useless at that point. And you can't just toss them in the trash, you know?
Yeah.
And like I can't imagine the amount of waste that went into like the major labels CD cycle in that
Right.
time. They must have been like literally just crushing and melting down millions and millions of copies of CDs.
At the height of your CD consumption, what was the largest CD player that you had? How many discs?
You know what? For someone like me, and I don't know if a listener of this show would grasp it. I believe they would because of my historical precedents. Anything over 6 is
Yeah.
widely confusing to me, and I just don't enjoy. I'm kind of like an obsessive listener, you know. If I'm really into a record, and especially a new record, that's kind of all I'm listening to. So I really only need one most of the time. I think the thing that the 6 disc did, it offer a shuffle function?
Yeah.
It did, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think that was like the first, like almost like party shuffle kind of idea that I ever had access to. And I do believe I enjoyed that. You know, if you loaded it up with like 6 good CDs and did a shuffle, but I don't think I ever got over 6. But, you know, getting over 6, you were getting into like home entertainment system kind of territory, which wasn't my vibe. I needed everything in one single box, you know?
Yeah. Your kids will never know the struggle of moving out of a house and having to move all those CDs. When we moved from Vernon, right? The amount of boxes we had of CDs, and they were the heaviest boxes. And I
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
this is
They're
wild.
almost just as bad as books. Yeah.
Yeah.
But my kids apparently are going to be the age of the hipsters who bring CDs back, probably.
I
So,
love it.
yeah.
All right, Benny. On this day in 2007, Taylor Swift released Our Song, the third single from her self-titled debut album. But here's why it's significant for music history. It became Swift's first #1 single on the Hot Country charts, which started the whole thing. It went for 6 consecutive weeks, making her the youngest person for this to happen to. And from there, she just took off like a rocket. And and even now she's getting into the directing game. She's here at TIFF as well
Oh,
today. So Taylor Swift, big ups, has a new album coming out. So this day on 2007, that all kicked off.
I've been listening to a lot of Shake It Off. And
Really?
you know what I got to say? Something that's been exposed to me through the Sing movies is Reese Witherspoon may have a better voice than Taylor Swift, or and 100% has a better voice than Scarlett Johansson.
Wow.
You can hear it. Like when I listen to the Sing soundtrack and I listen to Scarlett songs, I go, "You're reaching.
Yeah.
You're not a theatrical performer. You need to be in like a lusty Lana Del Rey kind of vibe for your voice to work, you know?" Reese Witherspoon, that's a real voice. She's
Yeah.
good. She's actually good.
Oh man. That sent me down a whole rabbit hole because, for the project, the reason I'm here, I've been the amount of times I've Googled XYZ actor singing to see if they can sing, and there's some of them that really surprised you. Bobby Cannavale doesn't
Oh,
do a
yeah.
bad Neil Diamond,
Could see
which
that.
which
Can
I'm
see
pretty
that.
sure if you tinker things a little bit could sound Eddie Vedder-ish. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, are you saying Eddie Vedder is Neil Diamond-ish?
No. Like vocal tones,
I
not
can see.
like not
No.
not like yeah.
Why'd you just get so New Jersey real quick? Oh, no, vocal tones.
Vocal tones.
Oh,
Oh, hey, oh,
vocal tones.
oh
Okay,
man.
okay,
Okay, guy. Okay.
all right.
All right. We got to simmer it down real quick because, well, we got some news. Some news yesterday. We talked about the Queen and her passing. So let's get into it right now. First headline today: Queen Elizabeth II, the UK's longest-serving monarch, has died at the age of 96. She reigned for 70 years, which, if you do anything for 70 years, that's pretty impressive. She died peacefully on Thursday afternoon at her Scottish estate, where she spent most of the summer. She came to the throne in 1952 and witnessed a large amount of social change. Her son, King Charles III, will take over as king. And this was the part that I thought was really interesting that I had no idea about when these monarch changes go over. It goes from God Save the Queen to God Save the King. So they're just rewriting the lyrics every time the changeover happens, which is pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Lot to break down here in terms of her legacy. I know a lot of people feel a lot of different ways, but yeah, Benny, when you heard this, did it historically make any sort of impression with you, or were you just like, it's another thing that happened today?
No, it did for a certain reason. I mean, the thing is, to this day, I don't fully grasp how government works over there and how much power she's actually charged with. Like I still don't completely understand it. And because of that, politically, I don't have like any strong sense or view of what she did. I do find it pretty stunning when her father died in 52. She was 25 years old and became queen of, let me see here, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Pakistan, and what is known today as Sri Lanka, which used to be, I don't know, Ceylon. I don't know how to say it correctly. That's crazy to me. And that shows like just in her lifetime the amount of like change that's necessary in the world. Like, she saw over like the decolonization of Africa, and a lot of like old imperialistic tendencies that just like came and went, but are still there, during her reign. So it's really like a very interesting and kind of huge topic to uncover because of what you said. This is like 70 years of geopolitics under one person's umbrella. So it's like hard for me to really have like a firm opinion, honestly, one way or the other. But I think it's more of a cultural thing. Like America, especially in the 80s, just had this insane fascination with the royal family. It was like Queen Elizabeth and and Princess Di and etc. And I grew up with it randomly, like, and this name and this face were kind of synonymous with geopolitics and almost as present as my own presidents and stuff like that. So I don't know what they did, what kind of marketing they were doing with like those royal Dutch cookies and stuff in the 80s or something. But like I literally had a tin in my house with Queen Elizabeth and the king and the prince. And like that's where my mom would stuff like a $10 bill for like an emergency if she didn't come home that night. You could order a pizza or something. Like, so I just
Yeah.
grew up with this like narrative and I'm not even exactly sure why.
Yeah.
I guess it goes to show like how closely our countries are intertwined with Canada and the US and England, and the fact that I don't know, we're basically once them, like not that long ago in a sense. So it really, it's kind of a fascinating topic to bring up. It's something I don't often think about, and her death kind of like highlighted a lot of that.
And you really saw the differences. There are some very vocal groups. I had no idea until yesterday that Irish Twitter was a thing, but they were loud and proud and in charge. I saw chants at a soccer match over there of Lizzie's in a box, which I was like, listen, I'm Irish. I know that the history there is tough. But it's also the day that somebody passes. History will have the chance to write whatever she may have done or haven't done. But yeah, I thought that seeing the reaction on social media, there were two reactions. There are the UK people that were like, "Oh, we're gonna miss her," and then there was the other reaction. Very interesting to see this play out in real time.
Yeah, I mean, that's where, as an outsider of that country, like, I don't really like to take any kind of side on it because I know, like I said, over 70 years, this is a country that has its hands in a million places. There's probably tons of people that hate them and tons of people that love them. And
Yeah.
I'm not skilled enough to really have an
Yeah,
opinion
right.
there.
No, me neither. We're a podcast on YouTube for
Yeah,
crying out loud.
exactly.
Oh man. But just interesting. I think making a monarch like that more approachable to the people, I think that's gonna be how the loyalists, the people over in Britain look at it, even if there weren't some bumps along the way. So Queen Elizabeth II passes away at the age of 96. All right, Benny, we're going to keep it in London. Next headline. This past week was the Taylor Hawkins tribute concert at Wembley Stadium. The stars came out to honor the late drummer. Absolutely incredible. But I got to tell you, nobody shined brighter at this thing than Taylor's 16-year-old son, Shane, who came out to get on the drums for My Hero with the Foo Fighters. Absolutely incredible moment for him. I'm sure must have been emotional. But watching this for you, what kind of emotions did you feel? Like, I imagine this had to be pretty crazy for you.
Yeah, I've had a hard time with this whole thing. It just makes me so sad that, like, I have a hard time kind of ingesting, like, a lot of the tributes and, articles and stuff like that, because I'm just, like, sort of emotionally processing in a way, and it's like, and it's all just makes me so sad. It was nice to see this concert with his heroes, and, like, you know, I don't know Taylor Hawkins, but I know, as a fan of just, like, fucking rock and roll, like a real rock and roll fan, the kinds of stuff that was happening and the connections with people, and the people who were playing together, and the mishmash of artists that were up there, kinds of songs that they were doing, like, what fun, and what a good way to honor someone. And it seems the people who knew him best were, tracked it to be something that he would respect and be into. So you got to trust that when you go into something like this. But what can you say about the moment with his son? I mean, I was watching it and I truly empathized in that moment, because he was hitting the drums like he was playing for his damn life, and I've had that many times in my life where the drums were fully receiving my anguish. Like, that is one of the great things about being a drummer, is there is, like, a channel you can get to, and almost like this midway place between here and there, where, like, you're physically bashing something, and, like, there is, like, a really, really strong and powerful, like, emotional release that can happen if you can get to that place. And to me, seeing where he was at with his head down, the way he was hitting, I was like, yo, that motherfucker's in that place. And that's, you know, a good place to be, and a fitting place to be, to honor his father. I've, again, no idea, like, what the details of that relationship are like or anything, but it was a pretty stunning thing to watch for sure.
We've talked a bunch about how bands have magic, refining that magic, and we see often so times when somebody passes early that their son or their daughter or whoever, somebody related to them, kind of may step into that role that the person left. As rock continues to get older, and these icons of the business pass away, and that void is left there to be filled. Do you think there's something to be said of, like, somebody related to the person trying at least to fill those shoes?
I guess so. I mean, again, like, this is where we're talking about, when you're talking about a band, you got to understand always, especially a long term band like this, you're talking about, like, family dynamics. These people know each other so well that what people want and what is the best way to serve and honor them is completely different from person to person. So, like, I don't know if Taylor Hawkins used to secretly tell Dave Grohl, "Man, I wish my kid didn't play drums and he would fucking sing or something." Like, I don't know. So and then there's also times where it just doesn't like, like you hear Jason Bonham, who's a phenomenal drummer, play with Led Zeppelin, and yeah, he can play everything perfect, but like it's different. And just because you're someone's kid doesn't mean you're going to be exactly the same energy or want to play the same way or even like the same music, like who knows. So I do think it's kind of cool, and if it works out naturally to get there, that's cool, but I don't think it should have to be like you know an umbrella over the child's life, like this is your destiny.
Yeah. Last question for you on this tribute concert. And one of the things that I don't think a lot of people know about your scene and everything like that is when somebody dies, there's often some sort of like tribute concert event where people get together, they celebrate their music, they celebrate their life, kind of take people inside that. Obviously, this was much bigger than like your like typical one. But for people that that have like passed away and they've like paid tribute to the life, that's a pretty cool thing. Because where I come from with like firemen, that's like a big thing, and like all of the people that may or may not have known the person come to the funeral, and it's like a really emotional thing. So kind of take me inside of that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a part of a bunch of stuff like that. It's always sad, there's always moments where it feels great and moments where you're like, are we falling short? Is this actually properly honoring someone? But I think it's safe to say now at this point that those things are really for us. They're not for them. They're our chance to say goodbye, our chance to rectify our emotions and get a clear story of our relationship with that person and what they meant to us. And I think that that's the power of those things. And the one thing I think that always shows is like the power of community when that happens. And that's what I like is the death of someone can often bring certain things together that weren't often coming together or needed to come together or needed to see something clearly, and things like that. And all of a sudden, maybe someone you had a little scuffle with like 7 years ago, when you see him in that context, you go, fuck, that's not that important. I think it can be really powerful in that way.
Fascinated by that. More questions to come on that in the future. I'm 100% sure. All right, let's get a little lighter here, shall we? We've had a lot of death
Please,
loom over
please.
this. Benny, what if I told you that Tupac was arrested in Florida this past week? Tupac Shakur.
I mean, these days, I'd say you were on Reddit, and someone we got another like this guy's alive conspiracy. That's probably where I'd go with that.
Oh, I love it. Well, he's not alive, so that I know of. Maybe Reddit knows more than I do. But a 34-year-old woman named Tupac Shakur in Miami was arrested in South Florida after she was caught on surveillance footage assaulting a man with a baseball bat. Assault is serious. We would never glorify that. But we come here to the tune-up, and I want to focus on the name. What would drive someone to name their kid Tupac Shakur? Tupac is one thing, but going the full name, that's commitment.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love it. I do. Names are stupid. Half the names in the US are like names that were fucking, given to people, not even their original names. I love the idea of unique names and taking them back. The biggest irony about this one is Tupac wasn't his real name.
Yeah.
His real name was Lasane Parish Crooks. And just named himself Tupac Shakur. Now all these people are named Tupac. So honestly, I think it's cool. But here's the danger to me is like, even if you have an icon, especially these days,
Yeah.
what are the chances you get through a whole life without incident? There are kids walking around named Cosby right now and like stuff like that, who had the cleanest track record for a while. You're like, how could this go wrong? And then 20 years later, your like 30-year-old son is like, thanks a lot, like that's awesome that I'm named Cosby. So you got to be careful, but I do think it's fun.
You got to stick with the family names. I keep trying because, so I write things. I love naming things. Naming things easily top 10 hobby of mine. Not even joking.
You have 10 hobbies?
I've
Wow, good for you.
Coming up next week on the tune-up, my top 10
Yeah,
hobbies.
Denny's hobbies.
I've been trying to talk the girlfriend into the name Carrie. I think it's a great name. Can go both sexes. Allows them to discover their own identity. Not Han. I just want to take a time out in case any family's watching. Nothing's going on. It's just me playing around with names. Just got.
What are we talking? Like Carrie Elways? Like Cary?
Cary Grant, man. Absolutely.
Oh,
100%.
Yeah, it's a nice name.
But it's that. Like, you never know. Like, I don't want to like find out something in the future that kind of taints the name. So I think it's good. Best when you keep it in the family name. At least if there's any sort of disgrace, you keep it within the last name. You know?
And you don't want to put too much of an overarching thing over somebody. Yeah. That's why when I had when I had a kid and I considered the name Bonham, I'm like, this is like my drum icon. That would be a cool name. But then I'm like, do you want to name your kid after someone who is fixated on their own vomit at 27?
Right.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. As much as I love the man and his drumming, that's a tough one to carry,
Oh man. But I got to use that to springboard. If you had to name a person right now based off of somebody in music, well, it doesn't even have to be music, but who would you be like, you know what, that person? That's
easy. And I'm giving you your segue for later. LeBron James.
Oh.
If I had a third kid right now, LeBron James Horowitz. That could be a girl, a boy. LeBron could be a girl. Yeah. Why not? That's definitely the one. What's LeBron going to do wrong?
Oh, come on.
It's safe.
Come on. That's not safe. That's not safe. Even though I got to be careful what I say. I may see him on Saturday.
Yeah. Careful. Yeah. And I got to say, sidebar here.
Yeah.
I did take in Space Jam 2 a couple times recently. We've been doing Space Jam at the house.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Oh.
It's fun. It's a good time. LeBron's a better actor than Michael. Okay. Like, I actually kind of dug it. I thought it was good. It's made for children. Stop having an opinion like Jar Jar Binks about something not even made for you. Listening to grown men tear apart Space Jam is one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever heard.
The only problem I had, and I've been steady with this the entire time, the amount of Warner Brothers IP that they used in it, that bothered me. I don't need Casablanca and Space Jam. I don't need that.
Sure. It was whorish. It was definitely, I will give you this, that it was whorish for sure.
That could be the future of Hollywood.
When I saw the White Walker in the crowd, I was like, all right, come on.
I mean, they're trying to remake The Wizard of Oz with Kenyon Barris, the guy that wrote Blackish, the guy who we talked about has been tasked to reboot White Man Can't Jump.
Yeah.
They're giving him Wizard of Oz to redo, which I'm like, you've got two stellar movies to compete with there. That just seems like you probably shouldn't touch it if you're an artist. I don't know.
I'd go for that one. Great story. Great story. A lot of avenues. All right, let's talk. Give me something about the judges' orders. Come on.
Oh, all right. You want to talk baseball? Maris would also be a great name.
That's a good name.
Maris would be a good one.
I like that.
All right, Benny, let's get to baseball, shall we? We talked last week about Aaron Judge's pursuit of Roger Maris's AL home run record, 61. As of right now, he has 55 dingers. That's up 4 since last week for those who playing along at home. He's made a rock-solid case for MVP. But I got to, I don't know if this is me being a contrarian, but I got to offer up the question. Are people sleeping on Shohei Ohtani for potential AL MVP?
So I think what we got here is now like a philosophical argument.
Okay.
Because Judge will be the MVP.
Yeah.
Like that's become pretty clear. I think the voters have made it clear. And there's no good reason to not make him MVP. I mean, listen to this in the AL, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get the home run leader. Aaron Judge, 55. Second place, Ohtani at 33. RBIs, 118. Second place, Ramirez, 108. Runs scored, 111. Second place, 82 from Alex Bregman, 30 runs over. We're talking first in OBP by 11 percentage points, first in slugging by 100 percentage points. So it's turning into like one of and let's just throw in 16 steals to boot.
Yeah.
Like Aaron Judge does that now.
And
So,
walks.
right. And yeah, I believe number 1 in walks as well. Yeah. 9 over Jesse Winkler for walks. So like this is turning into one of the most dominant offensive seasons in baseball history. And especially with the record he's going after, it's very achievable now. He's still got like a month of baseball and he has 6 home runs to hit to tie. The way he looks right now, as I said in last week, it's the closest thing I've seen to like that era of Barry Bonds, when every time he got up to bat, you're like, just walk this guy or he's going to basically hit a home run. Like, that's what you feel like, even though it's baseball. Of course, the guy's going to still strike out 150 times as Judge has, but like, it feels that way. That's how smooth the swing looks and how dominant and focused he looks at the plate. Like, it doesn't look like there's anything you can throw that guy that he can't hit. So there's no case against him to be MVP, but you got to market philosophically that there is always an argument for Ohtani when he's playing at this level, as there should be, because nobody in almost the last 100 years of baseball, and he's starting to surpass some of Ruth's pitching numbers. He's literally doing something every year now that nobody has ever done. And he's not doing it at a low level. I mean, he's a top 10 pitcher in the AL, and he's arguably, a top 10 to 20 hitter in the AL. And there have been, a dozen games this year where between his start and his offense, he won the game by himself. So if you're trying to tell me philosophically that that's not the most valuable player of his team, you're insane. So I think it's this strange case. It's almost like how LeBron could have won an MVP for like 10 straight years and maybe should have, but you just can't every single time. I feel like as long as Ohtani's playing at this level on both sides of the ball, you can philosophically make an argument he could be MVP every single year.
It's crazy because I think he's not even going to get highlighted with any of these postseason awards, specifically the AL Cy Young. And it's kind of goes back to the when we talk about awards in the NBA. A lot of the people going for the Cy Young have a workload of over 170 innings. He only has 136, but that's because he's doing everything. He is 11-8 pitching on a team that's 60-77 with a 2.58 ERA. That's incredible to me, man.
No, it's stunning. It's really stunning what he's done on both sides of the ball.
But so the Aaron Judge conversation will keep going. Batting 300, crazy. Just all of those numbers that you said before, I'm absolutely mystified by.
It's the classic, like literally maybe the best bet on yourself season in the history of sports.
Yeah.
Do
you know how awesome a guy has to be to get me back into baseball? Like literally.
And that's what I was saying last week. That's why I do believe there's like almost zero chance that Aaron Judge is leaving the Yankees. They know the power of this right now. This is the first time in a long time the Yankees have had something real to market, and they need it.
Could you bleep and imagine if they just like let him walk? Like what New York sports media is not equipped for this.
The only way this could happen, it would just have to be the only way the Yankees could get away with it is if they were able to frame it as like, listen, we offered the best deal and he wanted to leave and we had nothing. Like, if that's the case, what can you do? And then Aaron Judge will be the heel of New York for the entirety of life, essentially.
It's not going to be like the Robinson Cano situation where like New York was like, don't let the door hit you on the way.
Yeah. We're like, you take that contract, please. Yeah. That fucking worked out, huh?
That really set the standard though for everything that we've seen since. So interesting. All right. You wanted to talk about this AL Central action.
Heating up.
Nip and tuck, as they say, but it's also in baseball's worst division. So baseball's worst division will send someone to the playoffs. We're not sure who it is. Likely the worst record among all postseason participants. We've got a three-way race between the Cleveland Guardians, the Chicago White Sox, and the Minnesota Twins. Benny, I pose this to you. Who will be playing in October?
I got to stick with it. In my article for Spin this year, I chose the White Sox as my sleeper out of the American League to go to the World Series against the Dodgers or the Mets. I don't know who I picked. I forget who I picked in the National League. I got to reference that. One of the two. One of the two is looking good for it, I'd like to say. Yeah. So I'm going to stick with that and stick with my White Sox because I think they have by far the most talented roster going into this run. I think now that Verlander is hurt, Dylan Cease is kind of, chomping at the bit for the Cy Young Award, and he's quite there. And none of these other teams have a dominant number one starter. Maybe you could make a case for Bieber over in Cleveland. But as far as the White Sox depth goes and stuff, but the thing with them this year is every single time they start making a little run, something seems to happen. Now, the one I really thought the Twins were coming in strong. They made some great deals at the trade deadline and, brought in Sonny Gray, brought in Tyler Mahle, fortified the bullpen. But both of those starters I'm talking about are nagging injuries and having a hard time getting into the playoffs. And the linchpin of their offense, Buxton, as usual, is hurt and in and out of the lineup. And without him, the lineup gets thin quick. So because of these reasons, I think the White Sox, I would like the White Sox, but at this point, it's such a wash that I'm kind of leaning towards Cleveland because of this 18 home games and 9 away games that they're running, towards the end. They have definitely the most favorable splits, and they also maybe have the best player going into it. I mean, Jose Ramirez at this point is a dominant offensive player that just doesn't get a lot of love because he's kind of been buried there for a while. And he doesn't take games off. He's there every day and he makes a major impact. So I probably got to pull away with Cleveland at this point.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Cleveland too here. Currently in first place with less than 30 games to play. And they have, like you said, those home splits. They have, I think it's a 6-game home series against the Royals to conclude the season. While the White Sox and Twins have to finish playing up against each other. I think that could be huge. The interesting thing, you brought up Buxton with the Twins, and that's been unfortunate because it's kind of like it'll all come down to him if they're going to make this run or not and stuff like that. But the Twins, but they can also control their own fate. With 14 other 26 remaining games left up against the White Sox and Guardians. So, you never want this kind of situation to be in somebody else's hands. If you want to get in the playoffs, as Al Davis said, just win, baby. So that's the case for the Twins. Then, man, I've had a hard time figuring out the Sox this year, man. Their remaining strength of schedule, right? Uh-huh. So the teams that they've left to play, it's the easiest in baseball. But like you said, it's been 3 steps forward and 4 or 5 steps back. So yeah, got to go with Cleveland here.
It's going to be tight. It's going to be tight.
Yeah. Look at me talking about baseball.
I love it.
Are you proud of me?
I am. I'm happy. This makes me happy.
Oh man. Had to do some digging, had to call up some folks. All right. But we would be remiss if we got out of here without talking about some orange leather.
Little hoops.
Let's get to it. Where else but the team with the most questions and even less answers, the LA Lakers. So for much of the offseason, the sticking point in any Russell Westbrook deal has been LA's refusal to include 2 first-round picks in a trade because any team that's going to want that big contract is going to need a little back scratch in return. Well, Eric Pincus, a Bleacher Report, is reporting that the team is entrenched in their position not to give up picks to get Russ out of Staples Center, crypto.com, whatever you want to call it. And they're not willing to part with even one of these picks. So with the Lakers in a tough spot, desperately trying to improve this roster because you have LeBron, you have AD, kind of a head-scratching situation for them, almost as if they don't know the value of these picks and where and how people use them in the league in 2022. Interesting.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I also think, like, at this point, if you're just removing Westbrook from the lineup, can you look at the Lakers roster and go, I see them competing with the top dogs of the West all season? I
No.
have a hard time seeing that, and I think so do they. I think that, any of the true tanking teams, the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes teams, I think they're scared to get Russell Westbrook because, you know what? He can actually win you a game every once in a while when the turbo jets are on and all of a sudden you have 28 wins rather than 21. He can do that to your bad team. So you don't actually want him on a fully tanking team going at all cylinders and trying to remake his case. So they are kind of stuck. And, you know, him and Beverly, these guys are pros. Beverly's now going into his marketing and media career. So of course the yuck is exactly what you'd expect. They know how to protect their money and their livelihoods. I mean, this one is on Westbrook. If he was willing to take a different role, you don't see why it couldn't work, but all indications are he won't. And because of what I just said in the trade market, all indications are he's not going to get traded. So they're going to start the season with both of them. I mean, it looks that way. But Denny, I'd like to offer you something here.
Oh, please.
I'd like to offer a silver lining to finish the program.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Episode.
I think we're forgetting something about this.
Lonnie Walker?
No. What if Anthony Davis and LeBron James are healthy and rocking for 80 games this season? What if Kendrick Nunn's a real player again? Thomas Bryant's really good. He was just buried in DC, He could actually be good. I like the bench. Juan Toscano Anderson, Reeves, Damian Jones, Lonnie Walker, Troy Brown. Got some athletes. We might want to hold on a minute and remember who we're talking about. There is a reasonable case to be made for the fact that if LeBron James and Anthony Davis are on full levels that they can be, particularly Anthony Davis, who at this stage in his career can be, a top 10 player in this league when he's cranking at all cylinders. If that's going and Russell Westbrook is asked to do what he was originally asked to do in LA, which is not be the number one guy on a team for half the season, which he was last year. So there is some window to me that this actually could fall into place. You're going to see it fast. And if it doesn't fall into place, you're going to know real fast. Yeah. So, I mean, if this falls apart and you got to trade him and stuff like that, it's going to happen quick. But I'd like to offer this line of optimism. Remember, we're talking about LeBron James. Remember, we're talking about Anthony Davis. The two of them together at full volume won a title not that long ago, and I don't think you need another superstar around those two to win a title. You just need the right pieces. So if it's actually cranking, if this coach has them working in a different way, who knows? I'd like to offer this avenue of optimism for the Lakers fan.
I'm even trying to do the math in my head as you're saying this. Say LeBron averages 30 a game. Yeah. Say AD averages 30 a game. And say Russ can come in with, I don't know, like 10 a game. He likes to go for those doubles and still get his thing. Say Patrick Beverly can get you like, I don't know, like close to 10, right? Like in like the 9-8 area a game. How are you getting to 100 points every night?
Well, I think
Lonnie Walker.
Well, this is where, listen, what are the guys that LeBron used to carry around him that would get him to 100 points every night? There are people who could finish in transition or people who can hit threes.
Yeah.
And that's essentially who they filled the lineup with this summer. Like James and Brian are both bigs that can stretch out and shoot. Brown's a good finisher. Like they got these people who can run, who can finish, who can sit in the corner and shoot threes. The point I'm making is when those two are running at full cylinder, that's what you need around them. You need complementary pieces. You need someone willing to sit in the corner 25 minutes a game, shoot nothing but that three ball, and guard the other team's best player. You need a few of those guys. And they kind of maybe got them. And if they're in this peak, again, my whole theory is out the window. if these two aren't both at peak performance. But if they are, I do think it can be stated that it's reasonably enough to compete.
I love what you're doing right now, and I see through it entirely. You want it on wax on September 9th in case the Lakers make a run for Ben Stradamus. Hedging the bets right here, Benny
Listen,
Horowitz.
all I'm hearing out there is this Lakers, they're just taking them apart. Listen, there's always a what if, Daddy. This is why we play the game.
Oh, man. I am not as optimistic, but that's okay. Let's see if your boy LeBron has something to say about it. By the way, the interesting report with the Lakers is, LeBron has his mini camp before every season starts. Russell Westbrook will show up. So all in on this team. The Westbrook Beverly situation going to be very interesting. I can't wait.
Why? He threw him a towel. Everything's
fixed. Come on, dude. All right. The show, you can email us at thetuneuppodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on all the social platforms, TuneUp HQ, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are putting out everything on there. If a story breaks, sometimes even before the story breaks, we got the coinciding video. It's all there. Subscribe. A lot of good stuff. If you want to follow the big man, he's at Benny Horowitz on Instagram. You want tour pictures. You want fun little Q&As. You want pictures of cucumbers. It's all there. Where else in music can you get that? Only at Benny Horowitz on Instagram.
That's right.
I'm at Deny Gallagher on Instagram. Benny, you got anything else?
Yeah, I'll see you on the West Coast next week.
That's right. Here we go. And maybe a little tune-up
Continental.
Who knows? The show's ended. Go in peace. You've been listening to The Tune Up and watching